And so what I did is I took a picture of an ice sculpture, and so this is my centerpiece here. And I'll put it up here to kind of give you all that relief. You know, in the priesthood, of course, we don't do anything. Most of the time, brothers don't even prepare for the classes they're teaching. But anyway, I went that far, so we got that. So you know what we're here for. I'm going to talk a little bit about gardening. There's a quote, "Without hard work, nothing grows but weeds. There must be labor, incessant and constant, if there is to be a harvest." Well, that is what's called the law of the harvest. And you plant what you sow what you reap. And it also takes a lot of work. I thought that was a pretty apropos quote. So before, I've got just a few slides to show y'all, and I thought I would do a real simple multiple choice test just to kind of see how y'all feel about gardening. And so it's slightly tongue-in-cheek, slightly serious also. And so I'll show you the questions. There are only 6 or 7 of them, and then it's multiple choice. So I've got some choices up here, and then y'all pick what you think the right answer is. Okay? All right. First one: do the prophets really expect every member to grow a garden? Hey, not really, but it's a nice suggestion. Absolutely, we should be doing everything in our power to comply with this counsel, or maybe if there's not more pressing issues consuming all our time. Which one do y'all think is the right answer? Okay, yeah, that's pretty obvious. Ezra Taft Benson said, "The Lord has decreed global calamities for the future and warned us to be prepared. We encourage you to grow all the food that you feasibly can on your own property. If you are saving for some item which is merely adding comfort or pleasure, you may need to change your priorities." Another quote, I remember what the sister used to say from President Kimball there: "We could buy it cheaper at the store, but that's not quite it, because there will come a time when there ain't no store." Now, when a prophet says that, you reckon he's just kind of, it's just a comment, you know, or do you think there's something to it? Probably something to it, isn't it? Okay. This is what blew me away. I actually remember when he made that statement. All the quotes I have in here are by prophets in general conferences, okay? And when he made that statement, the part that really pricked me was, "Why call you me Lord, Lord, and do not the things that I say?" And he equated that to having a garden and growing your own food. Pretty interesting. Why does the Lord want his children to grow a garden? He has fun making his children grow through meaningless things. Members of the church are so bored, it gives them something to do. It is a good reminder of how hard our ancestors had it, or he sees what is coming and knows how important it is. What's that? Okay, yeah, right. But you know what? Really, truly, this is very true, isn't it? I mean, my kids, of course, I love making them work in the garden because I want them to know how hard I have it. And I think that works. Obviously, it's that one. There are some who feel that they are secure as long as they have funds to purchase food. Money is not food. If there is no food in the stores or in the warehouses, you cannot sustain life with money. President Romney warned us that we would yet live on what we produce. The prophets say, that was a general conference that he said that, we will yet live on what we produce. Not what other people produce or what we can buy from the store or anything else, it's what we can produce. How important is it that I grow a garden? Not very. The church just doesn't even talk about it in conference anymore. Kind of important, the Lord loves an obedient heart. Important, it's a good way to save money and have some good food. It's vitally important for our survival. Yeah, C and D, isn't it? I mean, C, yeah, you can save a little bit of money. Sometimes you can't. You know, I have found that if you're not careful, you can spend more on growing stuff than you can on buying it, right? Y'all may have all experienced that. But one thing for certain, if you grow it in your garden, you know what's in it, right? You know what's in the can. I'm always amazed with these stories I hear about, Peter Pan peanut butter got in big trouble because the number of roach parts per jar of peanut butter exceeded the legal limit. Now, it's okay to have it, you just got to have under a certain amount of it. And, all those kind of things happen, you buy stuff in a can. Brother Wood, Sister Wood, are you in here? I don't see Sister Wood. Harold Wood in Powder Springs Ward, most of y'all probably know Harold Wood. Huh? Harold Wood Senior.
Sorry.
Harold Wood, many years ago, did a project for Del Monte. And in this particular project, they were replacing some cranes in the part where they made green giant corn. And he came to priesthood one morning and was telling us about it. He said, the way they get the corn in the can, they take these beautiful ears of corn and they put them in vats of acid because they don't want to shuck them, and so the acid eats the shucks off of the corn. It also causes the corn to release from the cob. And of course it dissolves the worms or anything else that's in there. So then they've got this big vat of corn, but now it's bleached white. And there's also no nutrition in it at all. So then they run it through a baking soda bath to neutralize the acid. Then they run it through yellow dye to turn it back yellow. And then they add some vitamins and minerals back to it and put it in the can. Now, you really think that that corn is as good as the popcorn you could grow yourself? I'm not sure eating a bought corn out of a can has any food value at all. Because the kind of minerals and things they use are really not water soluble. They don't do your body any good. Well, I had put it vitally important for our survival, and you'll see why in a minute. Family preparedness has long been an established welfare principle. It's even more urgent today. I ask you earnestly if you have provided for your family a year's supply of food, clothing, and where possible, fuel. And you know, this next phrase, and I'm sure y'all probably remember this quote, because I remember it really well, but when I would think of this quote, I always thought about not this part, the produce, but the revelation to store food may be as essential to our temporal salvation. But he said, the revelation to produce and store food may be as essential to our temporal welfare as boarding the ark washed the people in the days of Noah. I've always been intrigued with that statement because I remember how many people made it that didn't get aboard the ark. None, right? So if he's saying having your food storage and producing food is as important as that was, what does that mean for us in terms of our obligation? Right? Interesting quote. Another thing I'd say about this, you know, President Benson passed away many years ago. Does that mean that what he prophesied of in the conference passed away? No, it's still in effect, isn't it? All right. Number 4. If it's so important, why don't the brethren talk about it? You notice in General Conference there's not a single word hardly said about food storage or gardening anymore. Y'all notice that? Why? Well, they just kind of forgot. The members have been so faithful that it's no longer necessary. There are other topics that are more important. Or, it is important, but the brethren were counseled by the Lord not to talk about it anymore. Which one do you think is? Yeah, okay. Here's a quote right here. Bishop Burton in General Conference in the Priesthood Session, I don't know if any of y'all read that in the center, if your husband talked about it. Being self-reliant has always been a part of the church. Statistics show no matter what we do, we can't get more than 15% of the members to have storage. We are not going to say more. He said that 3 years ago in General Conference. But our people are going to need to be prepared. Why would he stand up and say we're not going to say more? You think that was just an idea he had? It came off the top of his head. We're not going to talk about it anymore. Obviously, if he said that, he and the First Presidency had a discussion about that, didn't they? And they were counseled. And who would they get counsel from? And he said, don't talk about it anymore in General Conference. Why? That's a subject for prayer. How big of a garden should I have? We should plow our entire property. We only need a 12-ounce tomato seed. Size doesn't matter, it's the thought that counts. If it's left up to the individual, but it should be a matter of prayer. You know, I made too many of these D. I shouldn't have. I noticed that, and I meant to go back and change them. Obviously, it's up to the individual. Prayer really is a part of this. I'll tell you that my wife and I have been gardening now for many, many years. And when we first started gardening, what we did then versus what we did now has changed a lot. And I don't think we would be where we are right now, though, had we not started at some point and just begun to do something. Okay. We will see the day when we live on what we produce. That harkens back to the statement made previously. Somehow, some way, before this thing all winds down, the only thing we'll have to live off of is what we produce. The Lord exempts which groups from keeping and having to obey this commandment. And I found about 6 or 7 quotes by prophets where they refer to this not as counsel or a good idea or anything like that. They call it a commandment. The people exempted are ward and stake leaders. Wealthy members who can buy anything they want anytime. Very intelligent people because they can better discern what's really going on. And because they figured everything out, they don't need to obey it. Members who had a dream that this commandment doesn't apply to them. Members whose health preclude them from doing it. Now, I would say, it's not just health, but of course there are extenuating circumstances, and the Lord is fully understanding of extenuating circumstances. But sometimes we claim, I'm putting myself in this category, we want to claim ourselves as having an extenuating circumstance when it may not be true. When Sharon and I first got married, we lived in Knoxville, Tennessee. There was a fella in the ward who was a paraplegic in a wheelchair, had been for 20 years. By golly, he had the biggest and best garden in the whole ward, And the thing was, he couldn't pick certain stuff, like he couldn't pick corn that was up high because he couldn't reach it. I never did figure out how he planted it, but he had apple trees and stuff like that, and so he would make deals with some of the members in the ward. He said, "I tell you what, if you go pick my apples for me, I'll give you half, and you keep half, and then I'll keep the other half." And then he'd can the doggone things. But my wife and I were more than happy, since at the time we lived in a dorm that was about 600 square feet. We were glad to pick his apples for him to share. Well, that's obviously the one. Should the Lord decide at this time to cleanse the church, a famine in this land of 1 year's duration could wipe out a large percentage of slothful members, including some ward and stake officers. Ezra Taft Benson in General Conference made that statement. Now, there's a couple things I thought about when I was